Alden's resolve to seek justice for Selene simmered quietly over the next week, not gone but calmer, shaped by the voices around him. Jonah's caution, Marcus's steadiness, Katherine's plea for restraint, and Lyra's gentle presence, grounding him whenever his anger threatened to reignite. But while Alden wrestled with the past, Jonah faced a different battle, one he had been avoiding for months. It began on a quiet Sunday morning. Alden had stopped by Jonah's apartment to deliver a watercolor set he thought Lyra would love. But when Jonah opened the door, his normally steady expression was etched with worry. "You look exhausted," Alden said gently. Jonah rubbed his forehead. "It's something I need to talk to you about, to all of you." Alden frowned. "What's going on?" Before Jonah could answer, Lyra barreled into the room wearing mismatched socks and a glittery headband. "Grandpa, look. I made Orion a star." She held up a sparkly paper star with a string attached. Alden smiled, but Jonah's face tightened with emotion. "Sweetheart," Jonah said softly, "can you finish your drawing while I talk to Grandpa?" Lyra nodded and ran off to her art corner. Jonah motioned for Alden to sit. "I got a call yesterday," Jonah began, "from the Regional Cemetery Administration." Alden straightened. "About your job?" "Yes," Jonah said. "They want to promote me. A relocation promotion." "Relocation?" Alden repeated slowly. Jonah nodded. "It's a managerial position, better pay, better hours. It would give Lyra stability I've never been able to provide." Alden felt a sinking in his stomach. "Where?" Jonah hesitated. "North Shore, 2 hours away, a small town near the coast." Alden stared at him. "You'd move." "I don't want to," Jonah admitted, voice breaking. "But I need to consider it." "For Lyra?" Alden swallowed hard. "Have you told her?" "No," Jonah said quickly. "Not until we decide, but Alden, I promised Orion I'd give her the life he wanted for her. He always dreamed of raising her somewhere quiet. Peaceful, not in the noise of the city." Alden's chest tightened. "Jonah, she just found her family." "I know," Jonah whispered. "That's why this is tearing me apart." Alden leaned forward. "Don't make this decision alone. Let us help." Jonah met his eyes, conflict swirling in them. "I don't want to depend on your money." "This isn't about money," Alden said. "It's about Lyra's whole life and yours." Jonah ran a hand through his hair. "If we stay here, she gets family, but she also gets my unstable hours, my stress, my exhaustion. If we move, she gets a quieter childhood, a real home, maybe the kind of life Selene wanted for her." Alden's heart pounded. "And what about us, her grandparents, her uncle? We'd barely see her." Jonah's voice lowered. "That's the part I can't decide. If I stay, I fear failing her. If I go, I fear breaking her heart." Alden sat back, breath uneven. He looked toward the living room where Lyra hummed softly, coloring stars onto a piece of paper. She had just learned to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel whole. The thought of that light being dimmed again twisted something deep in him. "Jonah," Alden whispered, "please don't take her away from us." Jonah closed his eyes. "I don't want to, but I have to choose what gives her the best future." "And maybe," Alden said, voice trembling, "the best future is one where she doesn't lose another family." Jonah looked away, tears threatening to fall. Jonah's decision would change everything. But before he could choose between staying or leaving, something unexpected was about to pull the entire family together. For a moment they never anticipated. Jonah's announcement hung in the air like a storm cloud, silent, heavy, waiting to break. Alden left the apartment that night with his mind spiraling. The idea of losing Lyra, after just learning to love her, felt like fate mocking him a second time. Selene had slipped through his hands. Marcus had drifted away for years. And now Lyra, the child who had reopened a part of his heart he thought was buried forever. He couldn't lose her too, but the choice wasn't his. The next morning, the entire family gathered for what was supposed to be a simple outing to the botanical gardens, Katherine's planned day with Lyra. Yet Jonah's news overshadowed everything. They met outside the glasshouse entrance, winter sunlight bouncing off the frosted panes. Katherine immediately sensed the tension. "What happened?" she asked sharply. Jonah exhaled. "We should talk after the visit. Today is for Lyra." But Lyra already noticed their faces. "Is something wrong?" she asked quietly, tugging on Alden's sleeve. Alden forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. We're just thinking too much." Lyra nodded and ran ahead toward the butterfly exhibit. Inside, the warmth and colors wrapped around them. Emerald leaves, bright blossoms, butterflies drifting like soft rain. Lyra stretched her hands out, laughing when a blue-winged butterfly landed on her finger. "Look," she shouted. "It likes me." Everyone smiled, Jonah, Katherine, Marcus, even Alden. For a moment the heaviness faded. But it returned when they gathered for lunch at the garden cafe. Jonah cleared his throat. "I need to tell everyone something." Katherine's eyes narrowed immediately. What is it? Jonah explained everything. The promotion, the relocation, the potential move to North Shore. Katherine's gasp sliced through the air. You can't take her away. Jonah held up a hand. I haven't decided. I'm trying to think clearly. Marcus leaned forward. Moving her now would uproot everything she just gained. Alden's voice shook. She belongs with us, with all of us. Jonah stiffened. And she belongs with me. I've raised her alone for 9 years. I'm not the enemy here. No one's saying you are, Marcus said calmly. We're just afraid. Katherine's voice cracked. She finally called me grandma. I can't lose her. Jonah ran a shaky hand through his hair. I don't want to leave, but I need to choose what gives her stability. At that moment, Lyra ran back to the table carrying a handful of flower petals. What are you talking about? She asked, smiling. They all froze. Alden quickly redirected. Just grown-up stuff, sweetheart. Lyra lifted the petals high. These are for Mommy. I want to visit her tree and leave them there. Can we go today, all of us? Her innocent request hit every heart at the table. Jonah swallowed hard. Yes, we can. Katherine wiped her eyes. Of course. Alden nodded. We'll go. Marcus placed a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. She would love that. That afternoon, they drove together, Alden, Jonah, Katherine, Marcus, and Lyra, to the hill in Fairhaven Memorial Park where Selene rested beneath the old sycamore tree. The sky glowed a soft amber, and the wind carried the scent of winter and memories. Lyra knelt beside the stone, placing the petals gently on the grass. Hi, Mommy, she whispered. I brought these for you, and she looked back at her family. We all came today because we love you. Jonah's breath trembled. Katherine cried quietly. Marcus bowed his head. Alden placed a hand on the cold stone. Lyra reached out and took all their hands, linking them together. We're a family, she said softly. Mommy likes that. Alden felt his heart fracture and heal in the same breath. Standing at Selene's grave, united for the first time, the family felt closer than ever. But Jonah still had a choice to make, one that would either keep this new family whole or tear it apart forever. The walk back from Selene's grave was quiet, each family member wrapped in their own thoughts, their own wounds, their own hopes. Lyra skipped ahead, humming, unaware of the storm her simple request had calmed just moments earlier. But the storm wasn't gone. It waited inside Jonah's heart. As they reached the parking lot, Alden gently touched Jonah's shoulder. Please, Alden said softly, don't make a decision yet. Jonah looked away. I have to. The offer expires in a week. Marcus stepped forward, calm but resolute. Jonah, you're an incredible father, but moving isn't the only way to give Lyra stability. Katherine added, she needs roots, consistency, people who love her. That's stability too. Jonah rubbed his brow, torn. You don't understand. Every month, every bill, I've barely kept up. Moving would ease that burden. She'd have a yard, a quiet childhood. And I wouldn't be exhausted all the time. Alden swallowed the ache in his throat. Then let us help, not with money thrown at you, but with partnership, with support. Jonah's eyes flickered. I don't want to depend on handouts. This isn't charity, Alden said. This is family choosing each other. Katherine stepped closer. If Selene could speak to you right now, she'd say the same thing. She wanted her child surrounded by love. Look around, Jonah, that's what she is now. Jonah's breath trembled. Lyra looked back at them suddenly. Are we going home? Jonah knelt in front of her. Yes, sweetheart. But Daddy, she paused, voice soft. Are you sad? Jonah froze. Lyra touched his cheek with her small hand. Mommy says, she stopped, correcting herself with a shy smile. I think Mommy would say, don't be sad alone. The words struck Jonah straight in the heart. Alden's voice gentled. She's right, none of us should do this alone. Jonah looked at each of them, Alden, Marcus, Katherine, faces full of pain, imperfection, but also love. A family held together not by blood alone, but by the fragile decision to keep trying. He finally exhaled. Before I say anything, can I ask something of all of you? Alden nodded immediately. Anything, Jonah stood. If I stay, I need help, real help, not money thrown at me, support, time, presence. I don't want Lyra to grow up thinking she is my burden alone. Marcus stepped forward. I'll take her every Wednesday afternoon. She can come to my studio. She loves drawing. I'll teach her more. Katherine gently added, I can help with meals after school and homework, and she can stay with me whenever you need rest. Alden placed a hand over his heart. And I will be there for both of you, not just when it's convenient, not just in grand gestures. I want to be part of her everyday life. Jonah swallowed hard. His eyes filled. Then I think the answer is clear. Lyra looked up eagerly. What answer, Daddy? Jonah knelt again, taking her hands. We're staying, Lyra, we're not moving. Lyra burst into a bright, unrestrained grin. So I can still see Grandpa and Uncle Marcus and Grandma every week. Jonah nodded. Every week and more. Alden's breath released in a rush he didn't know he'd been holding. Marcus smiled openly. Katherine wiped her eyes. Lyra threw her arms around Jonah's neck. "Thank you, Daddy." Then she ran to Alden and hugged him too. We're staying, we're staying." Alden held her close, tears warm against her hair. Jonah looked at him over her shoulder. "Thank you," Jonah whispered, "for giving me a family to stay for." Alden shook his head, voice breaking. "No, Jonah, thank you for giving me a family to come home to." That evening, the whole family gathered at Alden's lake house for the first time, laughing, cooking, sharing stories beneath a sky Selene once dreamed of painting. In the quiet glow of sunset, Lyra stood in the doorway and whispered to the wind, "Mommy, we're okay now." And for the first time in years, Alden believed her. Life moved forward with a fragile rhythm, delicate but promising. Yet just when Alden began believing the past had finally loosened its grip, it returned in the form of a small, worn envelope. It arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Jonah had invited Alden and Marcus to his apartment for dinner. Something simple: soup, fresh bread, laughter echoing from Lyra as she sorted her colored pencils on the living room floor. It felt warm, real, like a home Alden had never earned but was slowly being invited into. Then Jonah cleared his throat. "Before we eat," he said, voice heavier than usual, "there's something you both need to see." Alden and Marcus exchanged a glance. Jonah disappeared into his bedroom and returned with a faded, cream-colored envelope, edges frayed, handwriting familiar enough to make Alden's knees weaken. Selene's handwriting. The room grew still. Jonah held it carefully. This was addressed to a friend of Selene's. Orion kept it. He could never bring himself to mail it. After he died, I found it among his things. Alden's heart pounded. "Why didn't you show me sooner?" "Because," Jonah said quietly, "I wasn't sure you were ready. And I wasn't sure Lyra was, but now I think it's time." He offered the letter to Alden. Alden stared at it for a moment, hands trembling not from fear but from the weight of 10 years of silence. Marcus placed a steadying hand on his arm. "Dad read it." Alden opened the envelope. Inside was a single page, creased in the middle, written in Selene's looping, delicate script. He began reading aloud. "Dear Mara, I'm writing because everything is changing faster than I expected. I'm pregnant. Orion and I are having a baby. I've never felt so full of fear and joy at the same time." Alden's breath caught. He continued, "I haven't told my father. I want to. I dream of him being part of my child's life. But he has always pushed me toward the world he understands. Numbers, ambition, steel. Orion is nothing like that. He builds with his hands. He loves quietly, and I'm afraid Dad won't accept him." Alden looked away, pain tightening his jaw. Marcus whispered, "She wanted you?" Alden forced himself to continue. "But I hope one day he will see we're happy. I hope he will love my child even if he doesn't love our choices." A tear slid down Alden's cheek. Jonah sat down, eyes damp as he listened. "Orion and I are thinking of leaving the city after the baby is born, somewhere peaceful, somewhere we can breathe. But if Dad ever asks about me, tell him I'm safe, I'm happy, and that I still believe people deserve second chances." Alden stopped reading. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It vibrated, full of grief, regret, and an echo of hope from a woman whose voice had been gone for years. Lyra entered the room quietly, holding a stuffed fox. "Daddy, Grandpa, why are you crying?" Alden wiped his face quickly. "Your mom wrote us a letter, sweetheart." Lyra's eyes widened. "A letter from Mommy? Would you like to hear it?" Jonah asked gently. Lyra nodded and climbed into Alden's lap. He read the letter again, voice thick but steady this time. When he finished, Lyra pressed the paper to her chest. "Mommy wanted you," she whispered to Alden. "She wanted you to love me." Alden's voice cracked. "I do love you. More than anything." Lyra hugged him tightly, small arms wrapping around a heart that had broken and begun to mend in the same moment. Marcus wiped his eyes openly. "She believed in you, Dad. Even when we didn't." Alden closed his eyes. "And I failed her anyway." Marcus shook his head. "Maybe, but you're here now, and she wanted you to have that chance." But Selene's letter was not the only thing the past had left behind, and the next revelation would challenge everything Alden thought he knew about Orion, Selene, and the night she died. Selene's letter should have brought closure. Instead, it stirred questions Alden had buried years ago, questions about the night she died, and about Orion, the man he never knew but who had loved Selene in all the ways Alden failed to. After dinner, when Lyra was asleep on the couch with her stuffed fox tucked under her chin, Jonah spoke quietly. "There's something else," he said. "Something about the accident, something I wasn't sure whether to tell you." Alden stiffened. "The accident?" Marcus leaned forward. "Jonah, what do you mean?" Jonah rubbed his hands together, uneasy. I didn't know whether the truth would help or reopen wounds. But after the letter, I think you deserve to know. Alden felt his pulse rise. Just tell us. Jonah inhaled slowly. Orion always believed Seleni's accident wasn't as simple as it looked. Silence crashed over the room. What are you talking about? Alden asked, voice sharp. Jonah continued. The official report said Seleni's car skidded on wet pavement and collided with a railing, but Orion insisted the skid marks didn't line up with the story. He thought the brakes malfunctioned. Marcus frowned. Brakes malfunction all the time. Yes, Jonah said, but Selene had taken her car in for servicing just a week before, and the mechanic was someone Orion didn't trust. He told me once that Selene felt rushed out of the shop that day, like they didn't really check anything. Alden felt a chill creep down his spine. Why didn't Orion investigate? He tried, Jonah replied. He filed requests for a deeper mechanical analysis, but the case was closed quickly. Too quickly. He didn't have money, didn't have influence, and after Lyra was born, he focused on survival rather than reopening wounds. Marcus shook his head. Are you saying someone tampered with her car? I'm saying Orion believed something was wrong, Jonah answered softly, and he died before he could find the truth. Alden sat back, breath unsteady. The thought was unbearable. Selene's death might not have been fate or misfortune, but preventable, caused by human negligence or worse. Why didn't you tell me this before? Alden asked. Because you were drowning in guilt already, Jonah said gently. I thought adding suspicion would only break you more. Alden closed his eyes, jaw trembling. But I need to know. If someone was responsible, if someone failed her. Marcus's voice was calm but grim. Then we find out. The next morning, Alden drove to the auto shop listed in the old service report Jonah provided. He hadn't set foot in a place like this in decades. Oil-stained floors, tools clinking, the scent of metal and rubber. A far cry from the marble halls he lived in. A middle-aged mechanic with a crooked name patch, Tamaz, looked up as Alden entered. Can I help you? Alden held out the service slip. Do you remember this car, Selene Crane, 10 years ago? Tamaz went still. His eyes darted to the paper, then to Alden. You're her father. It wasn't a question. Yes, Alden said. Did you inspect her brakes that day? Tamaz swallowed hard. I did the paperwork. What about the inspection? Alden pressed. Did someone skip it, rush it? Who touched her car? Tomas's hands shook slightly. Look, that's a long time ago. The shop was under different management. Some guys were cutting corners. I told them it wasn't safe. Alden's heart slammed. Cutting corners, how? Tamaz lowered his voice. Parts weren't replaced. Jobs were rushed, some cars left unsafe. I reported it. No one listened. Marcus stepped closer. Was Selene's car one of them? Tamaz hesitated, shame flooding his face. I think so, he whispered. Her brakes, they should have been replaced, not patched. Alden felt the ground tilt beneath him. So it wasn't just an accident, Marcus said quietly. Tamaz looked away. I'm sorry. Truly, Alden stepped back, his vision blurring, grief and anger twisting violently inside him. His daughter hadn't simply died. She had been failed by strangers who treated safety like an afterthought. Alden had uncovered the truth, but truth demands a reckoning, and the next step would drag him into a confrontation that could tear open every old wound he had tried to heal. The truth Alden uncovered didn't bring peace. It ignited something far more dangerous, a fire inside him that had been smoldering for 11 years. Selene's death wasn't just an accident. It was negligence, carelessness, avoidable, and someone had allowed it to happen. Alden left the auto shop trembling with a mix of rage and grief. Marcus followed close behind, worry etched into his features. Dad, Marcus said, grabbing his arm, slow down. Alden turned sharply. She died because a mechanic cut corners, because someone decided saving time was worth more than her life. Marcus swallowed hard. I'm angry too, but what are you planning to do? I'm going to make them answer for it, Alden said, voice low and trembling. All of them? The next day, Alden used every resource at his disposal. His legal team, old connections, investors, even former board colleagues who owed him favors. Within hours, he had the names of the shop's prior owners, corporate oversight files, insurance records, and a list of employees from the year Selene died. He paced his penthouse like a caged storm. Katherine arrived unannounced, summoned by Marcus. Alden, she said firmly, stepping inside, what is this I hear about reopening the case? Alden turned toward her, eyes burning. Because our daughter didn't have to die. Katherine's face softened with pain. I know, but this won't bring her back. It's not about bringing her back, Alden snapped. It's about accountability, justice. Justice, Katherine's voice cracked. Or vengeance, Alden stopped. The distinction pierced him. Katherine walked closer, her tone gentler now. Selene wouldn't want you destroying yourself to chase ghosts. These aren't ghosts, Alden said, trembling. These are people who were supposed to keep her safe, people who cut corners, people who lied. Marcus stepped beside them. Dad, we're with you, but you can't let this consume you. Alden turned away, unable to answer. Jonah arrived later that evening, summoned after Marcus insisted he needed to be there. He listened silently as Alden told him everything, Tomas's confession, the missing brake replacement, the years of negligence. When Alden finished, Jonah sat down heavily. I suspected something was wrong, Jonah admitted quietly. Orion did too, it haunted him, but he didn't have the power to fight it. And I do, Alden said. Yes, Jonah replied, but consider the cost. Alden glared. Are you telling me to let them get away with it? I'm telling you to fight smart, Jonah said calmly. Not out of rage, out of purpose. Alden's breath shook. My purpose is my daughter, Jonah nodded. And mine is Lyra. She needs stability, not you spiraling into a war that could tear your family apart. Alden stiffened. Jonah continued, gentler now. Lyra just learned families can be safe. Don't show her that the world is only made of enemies. Alden sank into a chair, his anger cooling into something heavier, exhaustion. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll pursue this, but together, with care, with law, not with fury. Alden nodded slowly. I don't know how to let this go. You don't have to, Jonah said. You just have to hold it in a way that won't break you. Silence filled the room, heavy but healing. Just then, Lyra's small footsteps padded down the hallway. She rubbed her eyes and climbed into Alden's lap without a word, placing her tiny hand on his cheek. Grandpa, she whispered, your heart feels too loud. Are you okay? Alden's throat tightened. I will be, he said softly, holding her close. Because of you. Alden had a new purpose, justice for Selene. But before he could pursue the past, the future was about to change everything, starting with a decision Jonah never expected to make. Jonah's interview happened 3 days later. Alden didn't attend, he refused to overshadow Jonah's merit, but he waited outside the cemetery gates in his car, hands clasped tightly, staring at the winter-stripped trees. When Jonah finally emerged, he wasn't smiling, he wasn't frowning either. Alden stepped out immediately. How did it go? Jonah's lips twitched. I got it. Relief washed over Alden like warmth. You earned it, he said. Jonah shook his head. No, I proved I deserved it, but you opened the door. Alden met his eyes. You've been holding the door open for Lyra for 9 years. Let someone hold one open for you. Jonah's eyes softened, and for the first time he looked at Alden not with guarded tolerance, but with genuine respect. But the brief moment of triumph dissolved just days later, when an unexpected call came from Lyra's school. Her teacher, Miss Rowan, requested a meeting, with Jonah and Alden together. The classroom smelled of crayons and warm paper. Children's drawings fluttered from the walls, each one full of color. Yet the atmosphere felt heavy. Miss Rowan, a gentle woman with round glasses and tired eyes, motioned for them to sit. I'm glad you're both here, she said. It's about Lyra. Jonah tensed instantly. Is she hurt? Did something happen? No, nothing physical, Miss Rowan assured him, but Lyra's behavior has changed. Alden felt a cold pinch in his chest. How? Miss Rowan folded her hands. She's become withdrawn. She finishes her assignments quickly, but without joy. She sits alone during recess. And yesterday she broke down crying when another student asked her a question about her family. Jonah's head dropped into his hands. Alden leaned forward. What did the student ask? Miss Rowan sighed. He asked why she sometimes mentions 2 dads, Jonah and you, Alden, and why she suddenly has a grandmother she never talked about before. Children her age are curious, but Lyra didn't know how to explain something so complex. Jonah let out a shaky breath. We didn't think it would overwhelm her. No one blames you, Miss Rowan said. But Lyra is trying to sort through a changing world. She's scared of doing it wrong. She wants her story to make sense. Alden's throat tightened. He knew that feeling too well. Miss Rowan continued gently. The best thing you can do is talk openly with her. Normalize your family. Show her she doesn't need to hide or feel different. Jonah nodded. We'll take care of it. That evening they sat around Jonah's small kitchen table, Lyra poking half-heartedly at a bowl of macaroni. Sweetheart, Jonah started softly, Miss Rowan talked to us today. Lyra's shoulders stiffened. Alden leaned forward, choosing his words carefully. You've been quiet lately and sad. We want to understand. Lyra stared at her bowl. The kids asked why my family is weird. Jonah flinched. Your family is not weird, Lyra whispered. They said it's strange to have a dad, a grandpa who isn't my dad's dad, and a grandma who just showed up. Her voice wavered. And I didn't know what to say. I don't want to look weird. Alden reached across the table and took her small hand. Lyra, he said softly, families come in all shapes. Some kids live with one parent, some live with two moms, some with grandparents, some with uncles or aunts. And you, Jonah continued gently, you have a dad who raised you with all his heart. And a grandfather, Alden added, who is learning to be the man your mom hoped he'd become. Lyra's eyes shimmered. So we're just our kind of family? Alden smiled. Exactly, a special one. Jonah squeezed her hand. And anyone who asks, you tell them your family is made of people who love you. That's what matters. Lyra's shoulders loosened, and she whispered, okay. Lyra had found comfort, but while her heart healed, another fracture was forming quietly, one between Alden and Katherine, as two grandparents struggled to share the same child. Lyra's world steadied over the next few weeks. She laughed again, she drew again. She returned to her small circle of friends, proudly sharing stories of her big, different family. But adults were never as simple, especially not Alden and Katherine. The tension between them, quiet, sharp, unspoken, began small. A comment here, a disagreement there, an exchanged glance thick with old wounds and new uncertainties. It escalated the day Katherine arrived at Greybird Park with an overflowing gift bag. "Grandma brought you something special," she announced with bright enthusiasm. Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Really?" Alden watched, trying to smile. Jonah stood nearby, cautious as always. Katherine pulled out a pair of designer boots, far too expensive for a 9-year-old who climbed trees and stomped through puddles. Lyra gasped. "They're so fancy." Alden cleared his throat. "Katherine, maybe something simpler would be." "Oh, Alden," Katherine snapped lightly, "let the girl have something beautiful." Jonah's jaw tightened. Lyra slipped on the boots, wobbling slightly, unaware of the tension thickening around her. Katherine continued, "And next weekend I'm taking her to the Winter Ballet Gala." Alden stepped forward immediately. "Katherine, that's a late evening event. It's formal, overwhelming." "She'll love it," Katherine insisted. "Selene loved the ballet. Why shouldn't Lyra experience the same?" Jonah exhaled slowly. "Because she's 9, that kind of event is crowded and loud, and Lyra doesn't even like sitting still for long performances." Katherine bristled. "I am her grandmother. I have a right to create memories with her." "And I'm her father," Jonah responded evenly. "My priority is what's best for her." Lyra looked between them, confused and shrinking into herself. Alden stepped between the adults, raising a calming hand. "Enough, we are overwhelming her right now." Katherine looked hurt. "I'm trying, Alden." "I know," he said gently. "But trying doesn't mean pushing." Katherine's eyes glistened, not with anger, but heartbreak. "I lost Selene. I will not lose this little girl, too." Jonah softened instantly. "You're not losing her. She just needs balance." The conversation ended in uneasy truce, but the cracks deepened. Later that evening, Alden found Katherine alone on a park bench, staring at the frozen pond. He sat beside her. She didn't look at him. "You think I'm being selfish?" "No," Alden said softly. "I think you're grieving." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I wasn't there for Selene the way she needed, and I blamed you for years because blaming myself hurt too much. Now I see Lyra and I think, maybe this is my last chance to fix something I broke." Alden's voice gentled. "Katherine, Lyra doesn't need perfection. She needs presence. She needs calm. She needs love that doesn't drown her." Katherine laughed weakly. "I always did want things too big, didn't I?" "Both of us did," Alden replied, "but we can learn." She looked at him finally. "Can we?" "After everything," Alden exhaled, "we must for her." The next day, Katherine called Jonah herself. Her tone was quieter, humbled. "Jonah, I'd still like to take Lyra somewhere special," she said, "but maybe something smaller than a gala. Something she'd actually enjoy." Jonah smiled. "She's been asking to see the botanical gardens." Katherine breathed out. "Then that's where we'll go." Lyra, overhearing, squealed with delight. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't smooth. But it was progress. Yet just as the adults found common ground, a deeper wound waited in the shadows. A wound belonging to Marcus, whose past with Alden was about to resurface in a way none of them expected. For a brief, delicate stretch of days, Alden believed things were finally settling into place. Jonah had stability. Katherine found softer footing. Lyra laughed more freely than ever. But Marcus remained the unsettled storm on the horizon. He showed up for Lyra every week without fail. He brought sketchbooks, helped her build cardboard cities, even taught her how to read blueprints. To Lyra, Marcus became a hero, the uncle who could turn imagination into structures. Yet when Alden entered the room, something tightened in Marcus's shoulders, a flicker of old resentment, a quiet barrier. One afternoon, as Lyra painted in Jonah's living room, Marcus approached Alden. "We need to talk," he said, voice clipped. Alden nodded. Outside! They stepped into the hallway, dim and quiet except for the hum of the building heater. Marcus crossed his arms. I heard about the job you helped Jonah get. Alden stiffened. I didn't hand it to him, he earned it. I know that. Marcus's jaw flexed. That's not what I'm angry about, Alden frowned. Then what is it? Marcus exhaled sharply. You're trying to fix everything at once, it's reckless. Alden blinked. Reckless, Marcus, I'm trying to support our family. Marcus shook his head. Not support, control. That's what you've always done, decide the future for everyone, shape their lives without asking what they need. Alden felt the words land hard. This is different. Is it? Marcus asked quietly. Or are you just doing what you always did, trying to buy your way out of regret? Alden's breath caught. I'm not buying anything. No, Marcus's voice softened but didn't lose its edge. You missed my childhood. You missed Seleni's life entirely, and now that Lyra is here, you suddenly want to be the perfect grandfather. Alden looked away, shame filling his chest. I know I failed you. I know I failed your sister. Marcus continued, voice cracking. Do you know how many nights Selene cried because you were too busy to come home? How many times she told me she wasn't enough to compete with your empire? Alden's throat tightened painfully. Marcus, I can't undo that. No, you can't. Marcus stepped closer. But don't make the mistake of thinking Lyra is your redemption story. She's a little girl. She doesn't deserve the weight of your guilt. Alden swallowed hard. I love her. I know. Marcus's voice finally softened. And that's why I'm talking to you now instead of walking away again. Alden looked up, Marcus sighed. If you really want to do better, stop rushing, stop forcing things into place. Let relationships grow at their own pace. Let Jonah lead when it comes to decisions about Lyra. Let Katherine make memories without feeling compared to you. And let me, he hesitated, let me forgive you in my own time. Alden nodded slowly. You're right, I've spent my life trying to build things fast. Maybe this is something I need to build slowly. Marcus gave a faint, weary smile. Slow is okay, as long as you're steady. They stood in silence, the air between them no longer sharp, just heavy with truths long overdue. Inside, Lyra called out, Uncle Marcus, Grandpa, come see my painting. Marcus exhaled. Let's go back. Alden placed a tentative hand on his son's shoulder. Thank you for staying. Marcus didn't move away this time. They returned to the living room. Lyra held up her painting with pride. 3 figures standing beneath a large tree, Alden, Marcus, and herself, surrounded by bright colors. Look, she said. I made us a family picture. Alden felt something break and heal at the same time. Marcus's voice was soft. It's perfect, Lyra. But even as one wound began to mend, another waited quietly, a threat rising not from family conflict, but from the past, and a letter Alden never knew existed. Graybird Saturday arrived with a gentle breeze and a bright sky, perfect weather for children, but Alden's nerves churned like a storm beneath his tailored jacket. Today wasn't just about Lyra. It was about Marcus, about the fracture between them, about whether time could soften edges that had cut too deep. Alden reached the Brookwall Children's Museum early. He wandered the lobby, colorful murals, squealing kids, the scent of washable paint and popcorn. This was Selene's kind of place. She would have dragged Marcus here as children, pulling him by the hand. He swallowed hard. Then Jonah entered, holding Lyra's hand. She wore a mint green jacket and carried her small sketchbook like a treasure. When she spotted Alden, she ran the last few steps. Grandpa, look, I brought my pencils. Alden smiled warmly. Perfect, you might need them today. Behind her, Jonah raised a hand in greeting. Morning, Alden. But Alden's gaze drifted past him, toward the tall figure entering next. Marcus. His posture stiff, his eyes guarded, but he actually came. Lyra noticed him at once. Is that him? The one who draws buildings? Alden nodded. That's your Uncle Marcus. Lyra approached Marcus with cautious excitement. Hi, are you really an architect? Marcus knelt so they were eye level. Yes. And I hear you draw too. Lyra lit up. Wanna see? Marcus smiled, small but real. I'd like that. She took his hand without hesitation and pulled him toward the art corner. Jonah watched, surprised. She's usually shy, he murmured. Selene was the same, Alden replied. She opened up to people who felt safe. Jonah glanced at Alden. Marcus must remind her of something. Alden silently hoped it was something good. The art room was alive with color, easels, crayons, clay sculptures. Lyra dropped her sketchbook on a table and flipped it open. This is a dragon, and this is a forest house, and this one, she paused proudly, is a building I made up. It's crooked, but I like it. Marcus studied each piece as if they were architectural blueprints. These are incredible, he said, and this one, look at your lines, you pay attention to structure without losing imagination. Lyra beamed. Mommy used to draw with me. Jonah says she said drawing helps your heart talk. Marcus's expression wavered, pain, tenderness, grief mixing all at once. She was right, he whispered. Your mom was amazing. Lyra tilted her head. Did you know her? Marcus hesitated. Alden stepped closer, listening. Yes, Marcus answered softly. She was my little sister. I loved her very much. Lyra's eyes widened. Then you're really my uncle, Marcus nodded. I'd like to be if that's okay with you. Lyra threw her arms around him. It's okay. Alden felt something inside him loosen, a knot untangling after years of tension. The rest of the morning flowed like warm sunlight. Marcus helped Lyra design a future treehouse skyscraper, demonstrating proportions while she added whimsical bridges and star-shaped windows. Jonah took photos quietly, smiling despite himself. At one point, Lyra tugged Marcus's sleeve. Can I make one with Grandpa, too? Marcus glanced at Alden, something unreadable passing between them. Of course, he said gently. Go ask him. Lyra ran over. Grandpa. Draw with us? Alden sat beside her, pencil trembling slightly in his hand. Together, they sketched a lakeside cabin surrounded by wildflowers, Lyra's idea. She added a small woman in the window. That's Mommy, she said lightly. She's watching us draw. Alden's throat tightened. She would love this. Lyra slipped her hand into his. I think she does. Across the table, Marcus watched the moment, quiet, conflicted, but softening. For the first time, Alden felt hope stirring between the cracks of his broken family. But a new presence was about to enter Lyra's life, one carrying old wounds and sharper questions than anyone expected. The museum visit marked a turning point Alden hadn't dared to hope for. Lyra had accepted him with enthusiasm. Marcus had softened, if only slightly. Jonah seemed less guarded. For the first time in decades, Alden felt the threads of a real family beginning to weave themselves around him. But life had a habit of testing fragile beginnings. A week later, as Alden stepped out of a meeting, his phone vibrated with a name he hadn't seen in years. Katherine Vale, his ex-wife, Selini's mother. He froze. They had divorced 15 years earlier, coldly, quietly, and cleanly. Katherine had taken her maiden name, moved across the city, and cut ties so deeply that even holidays were spent in separate worlds. She had always said Alden's absence had carved too many wounds to salvage. Why was she calling now? He answered. Alden. Katherine's voice was brisk, sharp, with purpose. We need to meet. Alden's heart tightened. Did something happen? I spoke with Marcus. A pause like a blade. He told me about Lyra. Alden's stomach dropped. Marcus hadn't mentioned telling her, but maybe he'd felt she had the right to know. Katherine, don't speak. Her tone was brittle steel. I lost Selini. I will not lose the last piece of her, too. I'm meeting my granddaughter. Alden swallowed. Katherine, this is delicate. Jonah is protective. Lyra has been through. I don't care. Her voice cracked only slightly. I'm her grandmother. I'm going to be part of her life. Alden knew that tone. It meant she would bulldoze every obstacle in her path. He sighed. Then we need to do this carefully, for Lyra's sake. Tomorrow, Katherine said. Graybird Park, noon. She hung up before he could answer. When Alden arrived the next day, Katherine was already there, standing near the benches, immaculate in a deep burgundy coat. Her red hair, Selini's hair, fluttered in the wind. She looked elegant, determined, and deeply wounded. Jonah and Lyra approached from the opposite path. Lyra held a small drawing she'd made on the walkover, a habit she used to calm her nerves. Jonah walked tensely, sensing something was off. Katherine, Alden greeted cautiously. Katherine didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on the little girl beside Jonah. Lyra slowed, sensing the intensity. Jonah, Alden said gently, this is Katherine, Selini's mother. Katherine knelt immediately, tears welling despite her iron posture. Lyra stepped closer, studying her face. You look like my mom, Lyra whispered. Katherine's breath hitched. People used to say that, and you have her eyes. Lyra touched her own cheek. Grandpa says that too. May I hug you? Katherine asked, voice trembling. Lyra looked to Jonah. Jonah hesitated, then nodded gently. Lyra stepped into Katherine's arms. The woman broke quietly, silently burying her face in Lyra's hair. I miss so much, Katherine whispered. But I'm here now if you want me. Lyra hugged her tighter. Alden watched, emotions swelling and twisting. This raw vulnerability was something he and Katherine had long forgotten how to share. Jonah approached, guarded. We need to take things slow. Too much change overwhelms her. Katherine wiped her eyes, nodding. I understand, truly, I just needed to see her. Lyra held Katherine's hands and smiled. You can see me again. Katherine's expression trembled with relief. Alden exhaled. The meeting hadn't exploded. It had cracked, but cracked open something soft instead of sharp. But as the four adults exchanged awkward glances, Alden felt a shift, subtle but undeniable: Jonah's protectiveness, Katherine's fierce determination, Marcus's quiet confusion, Alden's own regretful hope. This family was growing, but growth came with fractures waiting beneath the surface. Lyra's world had expanded, but with new connections came new tensions. And the next challenge would strike from a place none of them expected, a place woven with bills, burdens, and a truth Jonah could no longer hide. The weeks following Katherine's unexpected arrival felt strangely balanced, like a mobile suspended in the air, each piece still trembling but not yet falling. Lyra seemed lighter. She now had a grandpa, an uncle, and a grandmother, three branches of a tree she never knew she belonged to. Yet behind her growing smile, Alden began sensing another presence, the quiet weight that lived behind Jonah Breyer's eyes. It began with small things: Jonah showing up to their Saturday outings a little more tired, his clothes looking slightly worn, calls he stepped away to take, voice hushed but tense, smiles that didn't quite reach his eyes. Alden noticed. Marcus noticed. Even Katherine noticed. But Lyra didn't. She was too busy living in the sudden abundance of love she'd been given, too busy drawing dragons for Marcus, painting stars for Katherine, and insisting Alden learn to braid hair. Mommy liked braids, so you should know how to do it too. Still, something in Jonah was fraying. One cold evening, Alden drove to Jonah's apartment unannounced. He carried a bag of groceries, not extravagant items, just simple things. But when Jonah opened the door, surprise flashed across his face. "Alden, is everything okay?" "No," Alden replied gently. "I think something isn't. May I come in?" Jonah hesitated before stepping aside. The apartment was small, clean, warm, lived in. A single lamp lit the room. Children's drawings decorated the fridge. The heater emitted a faint rattling sound, struggling to keep up with the cold. Alden noticed a stack of envelopes on the kitchen table, corners curled from handling. Bills, many of them. Jonah stiffened when Alden glanced at them. "Please don't." "Jonah," Alden said softly, "you've been taking care of Lyra alone for years. You don't have to hide the struggle." Jonah sank into a chair, rubbing his face. "I'm not hiding, I'm just managing." Alden sat across from him. "Managing looks a lot like drowning." Jonah let out a shaky laugh. "Rent went up. Lyra needs new shoes already. She grows like a weed. Her art club fee is overdue. The cemetery cut my hours. The heating bill doubled this month, and I—" He stopped, voice cracking. "I don't want to fail her," he whispered. "I promised Orion I'd take care of her. I can't break that." Alden's chest tightened. "You haven't failed her, but you don't have to carry this alone." Jonah shook his head instantly. "I'm not taking your money, Alden." "I'm not offering charity," Alden said calmly. "I'm offering family." Jonah looked away, jaw tight. Alden continued, "Help isn't something you owe me for. It's something we share because Lyra deserves stability, and you deserve a life that isn't held together by worry and duct tape." Jonah's voice lowered. "I don't want her growing up thinking money solves everything." "It doesn't," Alden agreed. "People do." Silence settled, heavy, honest. Finally, Jonah exhaled. "Then help me find a solution, not a handout, a chance." Alden nodded, already forming a plan. "What if there were a position at the cemetery with better pay? Something stable, steady, using the experience you already have." Jonah blinked. "Those jobs don't open often." "Maybe one just did," Alden said quietly. Jonah stared at him long and hard. "Did you do something behind my back?" "I made a call," Alden admitted. "But the interview and the job are yours to earn." Jonah leaned back, processing. A slow, reluctant smile tugged at his lips. "You're a stubborn man." "Only when something matters," Alden replied. At that moment the door opened, and Lyra rushed in, her cheeks pink from the cold. "Grandpa," she squealed, launching herself into Alden's arms. Alden hugged her tightly, feeling Jonah's gaze soften across the room. Jonah now had a chance for stability, but a new problem was growing in Lyra's world, one that no adult had noticed, and one that threatened to shake the fragile peace they were building. The last thing Alden Crane expected to see at his daughter's grave was a stranger's tears, or a child with her eyes. Alden had lived most of his 56 years inside glass towers and silent penthouses, a king of the western skyline whose empire of hotels and steel made him untouchable, unstoppable, and utterly alone. His penthouse in the Crane Meridian rose above the city like a monument to everything he had built and everything he had broken. But today, on the 11th anniversary of his daughter's death, none of the glitter mattered. He came alone, as he always did. Rain from the night before still clung to the carved stones of Fairhaven Memorial Park, a quieter cemetery than the one he had originally chosen. He changed locations after the first year because the crowds made his grief feel performative. Here, under sprawling sycamores and winding gravel paths, his daughter Selene rested beneath a slate-gray headstone engraved with the words, "She saw the world in colors her father never stopped chasing." A single white camellia, her favorite, lay in Alden's hand as he approached the familiar hill. But before he reached it, he froze. Someone was already there. A man knelt before Selene's stone, shoulders trembling, face hidden against his palms. Beside him, a little girl no older than 8 carefully built a small ring of polished pebbles, humming softly, an innocent sound that didn't belong in a place carved by grief. Alden's heartbeat slipped into a jarring rhythm. No one visited this grave. No one even knew Selene once lived a life outside his shadow. "Excuse me," Alden said, stepping closer, steel wrapped in politeness. "This is private property." The man jerked up, wiping his face quickly. His uniform, janitorial dark green, was wrinkled, damp, and patched at the elbow. His eyes were bloodshot but kind. I'm sorry," he said. "We didn't mean to intrude." The little girl glanced up, and Alden felt the world tilt. Her eyes, wide, glimmering, flecked with gold at the edges, were Selene's. The same shape, the same spark, impossible, beautiful, devastating. Alden swallowed. "Who are you?" The man stood slowly. "My name is Jonah Breyer, and this is my daughter, Lyra." Lyra smiled softly. "Hello." Alden could barely force the next words out. "Why are you here?" Jonah looked down at the headstone with a reverence Alden didn't understand. "Because Selene Crane mattered deeply to someone I loved." His voice cracked. "And because Lyra deserved to meet the woman who gave her the world she belongs to." Alden stiffened. "Explain." Jonah hesitated, knelt beside his daughter, and whispered something. Lyra nodded and skipped away to gather more stones near the path. Jonah exhaled shakily. "You deserve the truth. Selene, your daughter, she had a child, long before the accident. And that child is Lyra." The words punched the air out of Alden's lungs. "No," he whispered, "that's impossible." Jonah's gaze softened. "I wish it were easier to tell you, but Lyra is Selene's daughter. And she's also the daughter of Orion Vale, my best friend." Alden stared at the little girl again, at her eyes, her smile, her light. His world, carefully built, meticulously controlled, fractured in a single breath. Alden thought he had come to mourn the past. But the truth kneeling before him threatened to rewrite every breath of his future. Alden Crane had weathered boardroom wars, hostile takeovers, and Wall Street storms, but nothing had ever struck him with the force of Jonah Breyer's quiet confession. Lyra, Selene's child, a granddaughter he never knew existed, a living echo of the daughter he lost and the father he failed to be. How long have you known?" Alden managed. Jonah's shoulders tightened. "Since the day she was born. Orion told me everything. He and Selene they were planning a life together, a simple one, far from the noise of the world." Alden blinked hard. "They were together?" "Deeply," Jonah said. "Selene found peace with him, something she didn't have growing up in your world." The words pierced sharper than any knife because Alden recognized the truth inside them. Jonah continued, voice low. "She was pregnant when she died. But Lyra survived. Orion raised her for 3 years until the accident." Alden couldn't breathe. "Accident?" he repeated. Jonah nodded slowly. "A support beam fell at a renovation site. He never stood a chance. I was his emergency contact, so I took Lyra." The world around Alden blurred, the marble headstones, the drifting leaves, even the sky itself. His daughter had loved someone, built a dream, created a life. And Alden had known none of it. "Why didn't you come to me?" Alden whispered. "I tried," Jonah said, pain flickering in his eyes. 3 calls, left messages. Your assistant said you were overseas and unavailable. Then said you'd return the call when you had space in your calendar. You never did." Alden closed his eyes. His own carelessness had carved yet another fracture in his family's timeline. "But I wasn't going to force Lyra into a world that didn't want her," Jonah added quietly, "or into the hands of a man who didn't even know she existed." Alden felt the weight of every missed moment pressing on his spine. Every undone apology. Every time he told himself later, a word that had stolen more from him than death itself. Lyra suddenly ran back toward them, holding 2 stones shaped like small hearts. "I found matching ones," she said brightly. "Do you want one, mister?" Alden stared at the tiny stone she held out. Selene would have done the same thing at her age, a simple gesture, a bridge formed without knowing the chasm it crossed. He knelt, hands shaking slightly. "Thank you, Lyra, they're beautiful," she grinned, settling comfortably beside him. "Jonah says people come here when they miss someone they love. Did you love my mom?" Alden's breath caught. He forced a trembling smile. "More than anything, I just didn't always show it the right way." Lyra studied him, innocent and perceptive in a way children tended to be. "That's okay," she said softly. "Grown-ups take longer to learn things." Alden let out a broken laugh, wiping at his eyes as quietly as possible. Jonah stepped forward gently. "Lyra, sweetheart, why don't you get a few more stones for your circle? I'll help you finish it later." "Promise?" she asked. "Promise," Jonah said. Lyra skipped down the path again, humming. Alden rose, turning to Jonah with a heaviness he could barely carry. "What happens now?" he asked. Jonah inhaled deeply. "That depends. Lyra doesn't know the whole story yet, but she's curious about you." Alden's heart pounded painfully. "Please," he said, voice raw, "give me a chance to know her. To try again, this time without failing." Jonah studied him for a long moment. "I'll talk to her," he said at last. "If she wants to meet you properly, we'll arrange it." A second chance had appeared before Alden Crane, soft-spoken, sharp-eyed, and carrying the legacy of the daughter he lost. But second chances often come with a price, and a truth he wasn't prepared to face. 3 days passed, but they felt like a lifetime to Alden Crane. Every hour, every meeting, every carefully scheduled obligation dissolved into background noise. His mind replayed only one thing: Lyra's eyes, Seleni's eyes, looking back at him with innocent curiosity, and the truth he had never imagined confronting. So when his phone rang that Thursday morning, Alden nearly dropped it. Jonah Breyer flashed across the screen. He answered immediately. "Alden," Jonah said, sounding cautious, "I spoke to Lyra." Alden's pulse hammered in his ears. "And she wants to meet you," Jonah said. "Properly?" Air finally entered Alden's lungs again. "Where, when?" "She chose the place," Jonah replied. "A spot where she feels safe, Greybird Park, Saturday, 10 in the morning." "I'll be there," Alden said without hesitation. Saturday arrived cold and crisp, sunlight filtering through the turning leaves of Greybird Park. Children chased each other between bronze statues, dogs tugged leashes, and kites danced against the blue. It was a world Alden rarely stepped into, too ordinary, too alive, but today it felt sacred. He spotted Jonah near the swings, hands tucked in his jacket pockets. Lyra sat on the lowest swing, tapping her shoes against the mulch. When she saw Alden, she didn't run. She simply watched him, measuring him with the quiet seriousness of a child who'd learned life's fragility too early. Alden approached slowly. "Hi, Lyra," he said, keeping his voice gentle. "Do you remember me?" She nodded. "You're my grandpa." The word came out tentative, as if testing its shape. "Yes," Alden said softly, "if you want me to be." She blinked, considering this. "Jonah says you build big buildings." Alden smiled weakly. "That's true." "Why?" The question startled him. "Why?" Lyra shrugged. "Why build tall things instead of being at home?" Alden felt the sting immediately, Seleni's unspoken question echoing through time. He knelt so their eyes met. "Because I thought success meant building upward, but I know now what matters most is the people you build with." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then, in the clear, decisive way only a child can manage. "Okay," she said. "Push me." Alden laughed, relief breaking like dawn. He stepped behind her and began to push the swing gently. Lyra's laughter chimed through the air, light and bright. Jonah watched, arms crossed loosely, a small smile tugging his lips. "You're doing good," he murmured when Alden joined him for a moment. "I'm trying," Alden replied. "You'll need to keep trying," Jonah warned softly. "Lyra attaches deeply. If you come once and disappear, it will break her." "I won't disappear again," Alden said firmly. "Not from her. Not from anyone I love." Lyra hopped off the swing. "Can we walk now?" she asked. They wandered down a winding trail, Lyra skipping between them, collecting leaves shaped like stars. At a small cafe kiosk, Alden bought her hot cocoa and a blueberry muffin. "You don't have to buy things," Lyra said, blowing on her cocoa. "I know," Alden replied. "I just wanted to share something with you." She nodded softly. "My dad, Orion, used to share muffins with me." Alden's heart twisted. "He sounds like a wonderful man." "He was," Lyra smiled sadly. "Jonah says he would be happy I met you." Alden swallowed hard. "I hope he would." As the sun began to dip, Lyra tugged Jonah's sleeve. "Can we come again?" Jonah hesitated, then looked at Alden. "If you want that," he said gently. Alden nodded. "I'd love that." Lyra beamed and hugged him, quick, light, but enough to crack something open inside his chest. Lyra had accepted him with the simplicity of a child. But someone else in Alden's life would not be so forgiving, and their reunion was about to ignite a storm. For the next several days, Alden floated between obligations like a man reborn, yet still terrified he might wake from a dream he didn't deserve. He replayed every second at Greybird Park. Lyra's shy smile, her laughter on the swing, her small arms around him like a fragile bridge to the past. She didn't know the weight of the gift she'd given him, but Alden felt it with every beat of his heart. Still, there was one person he knew would not welcome this new beginning so easily. Marcus. Alden had avoided the confrontation for years, burying his guilt under schedules and skyscrapers, but the time had come. Lyra deserved a full family, not fragments shaped by silence, and Marcus had a right to know he had a niece. That Wednesday, Alden picked up his phone with trembling fingers. Marcus answered on the third ring. His voice was cool. "Alden, Marcus, son, I need to speak with you. It's important." A long pause, then, "Fine, tomorrow morning, 9, Westmoon Cafe." The cafe was small, warm, and humming with quiet conversations, nothing like the glossy dining halls Alden usually frequented. Marcus was already seated, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Alden sat across from him, feeling as if he were facing a younger version of himself, one who had chosen heart over ambition. Marcus didn't waste time. "You said this was important, so talk." Alden exhaled. "Marcus, you have a niece." Marcus's fingers froze around his coffee cup, his eyes sharpened. "Explain." Alden told him everything: Jonah, Orion, the accident, the child Selene never got to introduce, and the meeting at the cemetery. Marcus listened, jaw clenched, emotions flickering beneath the surface like sparks waiting for fuel. When Alden finished, Marcus leaned back slowly. "She had a daughter," he said quietly. "All those years, and we never knew." "I didn't know either," Alden whispered. "If I had, but you didn't know because you weren't there," Marcus snapped, voice low but shaking. "You missed everything, her life, her dreams. And now you show up with this revelation as if we can just fill the gaps." Alden lowered his gaze. "I deserve that, every word, but Marcus, Selene loved you. You were her safe place. Lyra deserves to know that part of her family." Marcus swallowed hard. Pain softened his voice. "Tell me about her." Alden's eyes warmed. "She's bright, curious, artistic like Selene. She looks so much like her." Marcus looked away, blinking rapidly. "I want to meet her." Relief poured through Alden's chest. "Jonah and I can arrange." "No," Marcus cut in. "Not arranged, natural, somewhere she can be a kid. I don't want her to feel like she's being introduced to a stranger she's required to love." Alden nodded. "You're right. What do you suggest?" Marcus tapped the table thoughtfully. "The Children's Museum in Brookwall. It's safe, fun, and she can draw. Kids open up more when their hands are busy." Alden smiled softly. "You've always understood children better than I ever did." Marcus didn't smile back, but he didn't walk away either. "I'll be there," Marcus said. "Just tell me the time." When Alden stepped outside, he released a breath he had been holding for years. The first fragile thread between father and son had been rewoven, thin but real. He texted Jonah immediately. "Marcus wants to meet Lyra at the museum. Are you both comfortable with that?" Jonah replied moments later. "If Lyra wants to go, we'll be there." Alden had taken one step toward stitching his broken family back together. But the next meeting would test whether the wounds between father and son could truly heal or tear open wider than before.